Ever since I was a young boy, I had looked up to my father as a role model. When he went into politics, I followed him. Before I became Prime Minister, I had a career in the British Army at the zenith of British military. I then joined the 4th Hussars in 1895 and served in the Indian Northwest frontier in Sudan. In 1900, I became a Member of Parliament in the Conservative Party for Oldham. Then in 1908, I was appointed to the Prime Minister's Cabinet as President of the Board of Trade. I believe that if someone were to describe me as a politician, they would say I was a historian who combined excellent, clear decision-making with my amazing rhetorical skills. Actually, in the beginning, not everyone agreed with me or got along with me. It took the 1930s, with the international circumstances of Nazi Germany, for people to consider me as a national leader. Through the 1930s, I tried to warn the world about Hitler and Nazi Germany, because I was aware of their plans while the rest of the world was focused on their own problems. I absolutely despise Hitler and his so-called ideas for the world. I realized that Hitler was a threat to Europe on October 19th, 1930, as I was following the news that was coming from Germany. This is also the day that I met with Prince Bismarck to talk about current events. I had no intention in starting a war, but I was not convinced that Hitler or his followers would seize the first available opportunity to resort to armed forces. Our tactic during the Battle of Britain was to attack continually in small numbers to try and break up the tight formations of bombers. When formations had fallen apart, we were then able to take down any loose bombers one by one. Then, once we had destroyed multiple formations, we sent in our Hurricanes, our slower planes, to take care of any other bombers with our Spitfires, our faster planes, stop or slow down the fighter escort. I was not joyful because America had been invaded, but rather because of what this meant for the rest of the war. America would be forced to join the war and the Allies would finally win. The Battle of the Atlantic. This battle was so important because it supplied me with equipment for the rest of the war. It was so difficult because the losses for the Allies were very heavy in the beginning. It was the longest battle in World War II and also the most important in terms of the future for the Allies. The Enigma machine was a series of electromechanical rotor cipher machines developed by the Germans to send coded messages to their submarines that were in the Atlantic. These messages told them that where our ships coming in with food supplies and soldiers were and where to be in order to destroy them. As long as we didn't know the code, we weren't able to get any supplies over. Cracking the code meant we knew exactly where the German submarines were and where they were going. Knowing this information allowed us to send our destroyers to where the submarines were and where to send ships to carry supplies. Cracking this code meant we would now have control of the Atlantic and we would get the supplies we needed to keep fighting the war. I think many things played factors in starting World War II. For one, the Treaty of Versailles. The Germans were upset with this treaty and wanted revenge on the Allies for making them not only pay money, but for telling them what they could and couldn't have as an army. Another is the failure of appeasement. We told Hitler what part of the check he could have, but he wanted more and failed to comply with our rules and invaded Poland, forcing us to declare war. The last thing I think caused World War II was the failure of the League of Nations. The League of Nations was put in place to keep the peace, but not all countries were a part of it. This brought up many problems when it came to decision time or time to achieve anything. To regain lost hope in Britain, I tried to be positive during my speeches, radio interviews, and my reports to the nation. Some say I was successful in giving hope to my citizens. D-Day was a success for us because we were able to win during the Battle of the Atlantic, which allowed us to get more men to Britain to help us fight. By getting these soldiers over, we were able to overwhelm Hitler's defense lines with all the men that we had. If we did not win during the Battle of the Atlantic, we would not have gotten the soldier over to us, and we would not have enough men to keep fighting the war. We became involved in World War II in 1939. The previous year we had tried to appease Germany, which gave them permission to invade Czechoslovakia. When they invaded the rest of Czechoslovakia, we realized that the appeasement did not work. In 1939, we told Poland that if Germany were to invade, we would support them, but the Germans invaded anyway, and on October 3rd, 1939, we declared war on Germany. If there is one decision that I regret making, it would be my decision regarding Gallipoli. I had wanted to go to shore there and cut off the Turkish. It ended up being a horrible disaster, and I completely regret it.